Today we'll be installing the Bachelor Dropper Post with Puget 1x lever. First, start by loosening your seat collar bolts and removing your saddle. Next, remove your existing seat post and cable, if applicable. One cool thing to note about the Puget 1x is that it's also SRAM Matchmaker X compatible right out of the box. You'll just need to use SRAM's adapter hardware to install it. For this video, we'll be installing it using the standard clamp. You'll notice that there are two bolt positions to bring the lever more inward or outward, depending on your preference. Start by sliding the hinge clamp over the bar and using a 4mm Allen, tighten the bolt clamp to the lever body until it's snug. Now for the fun part, internally routing your dropper cable. As each frame has a different design, we recommend following your frame manufacturer's instructions for routing your internally routed cable. Once the lever is mounted to the handlebar, we'll be measuring our cable length. We found it's easiest to seat the cable housing into the bottom of the dropper without the inner cable installed yet. Push the dropper post into the seat tube to your desired saddle height while pulling cable housing through the front of the frame at the same pace. Be careful as to not pull the housing too quickly, as it will lose connection with the bottom of the dropper and your measurements will then be inaccurate. Remove the end cap of the cable housing by pulling on the cable end. Holding the cable housing to the lever's barrel adjuster, make sure you have enough cable housing to turn your handlebars completely by 90 degrees. This ensures the cable won't be too tight if the bars were to twist during an accident, or so long that they're just sitting there flopping around during your ride. Cut the cable housing at the same spot you held to the lever's barrel adjuster. As they say, measure twice and cut once. Next, you'll be removing the dropper from the frame while pushing the cable housing back through the bike. Insert the inner cable into the housing, starting at the dropper post end of the housing. Place the cable end into the bottom of the dropper post. You'll see a slot where you can slide the inner cable through while pivoting so that the cable end sits in the actuator cradle. Next, insert the dropper post back into the seat tube while pulling cable housing through the frame as you did before. Feed the cable through the housing end cap. Next, slide the cable through the barrel adjuster and remove the cable clamping bolt. Push the lever to the resting position and reinstall the cable bolt so that it can clamp the inner cable. Using your fingers to keep the lever at the resting position, pull the cable taut and tighten the cable clamp bolt so that it holds the cable in place. Wiggle the lever to assess how much play there is. Twist the barrel adjuster to remove any slack, but not so much that the dropper is actuated. Trim the cable to your desired length using cable cutters, and then slide the cable end onto the trimmed cable. Use pliers to crimp it closed. Adjust the lever to your desired placement and using a torque wrench, tighten the lever clamp to 2 to 3 Nm. Make sure not to over-torque the clamp as this can cause damage to the handlebar, which could result in personal injury or even death. Next, you're going to reinstall the saddle into the saddle rails and tighten to the desired position. Adjust your saddle so it's centered with the bike frame. And lastly, tighten the saddle clamp bolts to between 8 and 10 Nm. Set your dropper to your desired height and tighten the seat collar bolt until it holds the dropper post in place. It's important to follow your frame manufacturer's recommended torque setting for the seat collar, as this varies between manufacturers. With that said, it is time to go shred.